Welcome back once again, friends. Matt with Eddie's Guitars coming to you as always from St. Louis, Missouri. Joining me today is my good friend Tony Polecastro.
Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Tony Polecastro from TackGuitar.com, the best place for older beginners to learn guitar online through nostalgic songs. I am beyond excited to be here today because we're going to do something that I've always wanted to do, and I think is supremely beneficial for anybody that is interested in guitar, that's looking to buy their first guitar, that's looking to buy their 15th guitar, and that is compare Tonewoods, specifically back and side Tonewoods. This is something that I don't think a lot of people get a chance to do in the same room at the same time with such a vast variety of Tonewoods. And I'm more than excited to do it with you because you've been in the high-end guitar world for how many years?
Couple decades now, man.
20 plus years. Matt's been tinkering with guitars and has been exposed to some of the finest Tonewoods of all the varieties. So we get to pick his brain today and access your large, expansive vocabulary to help kind of define these Tonewoods in words. And then, of course, we're going to play them and hear them. So I'm excited. I'm excited to do this, Matt. I feel like this is kind of a dream scenario, if you will, because you know, at this point, I've done, Levi says 500 plus reviews. I think it's more than 500, but we'll stick with like 500 reviews. Yeah. So I think between the two of us, there's a lot of guitars that have been played. So to kind of bend each other's ears on this topic, I think is going to be really, really exciting.
Well, and likewise, your experience in the field in general, not only on the retail end of things, but, you know, you're one of the biggest genuine guitar enthusiasts that I know, which is just going to be exciting to kind of dig in from that perspective, but also your angle of being an instructor.
Yeah.
You know, definitely gives it a little bit different spin, I think, and I think you'll have a unique perspective on kind of what we'll see and hear and feel here today. So.
Yeah, so in terms of what we're going to do today, we're going to be going through some of the most wide-ranging samples of Tonewoods, phenomenal examples of back and side Tonewoods. So whether you're brand new to guitar, like I said, and you're maybe looking to get your first guitar, or you're looking to get your 15th or 20th or 7th, I think you'll find this extremely beneficial because you're going to get a wide range of tones, and you're going to find out why these guitars sound different and the role that the back and sides play. And I guess to kick things off, just to kind of establish some groundwork, you know, we're not talking about top woods here. We're talking specifically about back and sides, and I wanted to get your perspective on the difference between the two. Like, what impact does the back and sides have on a guitar versus the top?
Sure. So the top, you know, more appropriately referred to often as the soundboard, appropriately so, is exactly that. It's kind of your main bones and soul of what the instrument's going to be, the soundboard. The back and sides play such a huge role in ultimately what we're hearing between the projection, sort of the flavor that you add to kind of those bones to the sound, but definitely has a big contribution to ultimately what we're hearing and kind of how the guitar is going to respond. Obviously, today we're going to be looking at a variety of different, not only different soundboard materials to go with the back and sides, but different builders.
Yeah.
Different types of guitars, body shapes and sizes as well. So I've got to say we weren't shy about picking out some of our favorites because, you know, why not?
Matt was bringing guitars in here, and I was just like, my jaw continually dropped to lower levels. There's some really stellar instruments in here, and like I said, this is I think a rare occurrence. You know, not often are you able to go to your local shop and get this array of Tonewoods. I think Eddie's is a phenomenal example of offering a wide array of guitars, a wide array of builders, and these are the choicest of the choice in terms of examples of back and side wood and just being generally awesome guitars anyway. So here's how this is going to work today. We're going to go Tonewood by Tonewood. Matt's going to play a little bit, and then we're going to talk about what the Tonewood is, what kind of sonic attributes it has, and then also maybe what applications it's good for. Fingerstyle, strumming, heavy-handed, light-handed, etc. I'll play for a little bit, and then we'll just continue the discussion a little bit about what you hear from the player's perspective, versus what you hear from the listener's perspective, because it is very different. To be able to hear a guitar played at you versus just playing the guitar is pretty awesome. It allows you to get a real comprehensive understanding of what the guitar sounds like. So with that being said, we're starting out with a heavy hitter, a Grand Slam, home run, field goal, Super Bowl winner. What do we have here, Matt?
This is a Kevin Ryan signature grade Nightingale model. So kind of all the bells and whistles are going to be present in a guitar like this from Ryan. This is the Nightingale Grand Soloist model. Is kind of his middle size, if you will. So offers versatility in terms of strumming, finger style, all that.
Sure.
We've got a bear claw European spruce top on this example here. And the main attraction on this guitar is a rather filthy set of highly master grade Brazilian rosewood. We wanted to start big, so we pulled the heavy hitting Brazilian out first, and this is just a ultra luxurious example of Brazilian here. Brazilian rosewood is among the ultra rare tone woods, and with that comes the price of admission, if you will. But there is the history behind this wood, the significance from not only American guitar manufacturers, but kind of across the world utilizing this wood in kind of the golden era, if you will, of guitar making is significant. So.
Yeah, it's definitely got some lore behind it. And just a quick factoid, you said this right before we started, and I actually was stunned. You were talking about different rosewoods, and you were saying, you'd assume that, all the rosewoods grow in like a rainforest or like a jungle, but where does Brazilian rosewood grow?
So this grows out in kind of more like not a rainforest, basically more of an open kind of tundra area in Brazil. It's just interesting. I envision a dense rainforest when imagining Brazilian rosewood, but my friend Richard Hoover actually educated me on that. It's not actually quite a rainforest wood, as I think a lot of us assume it kind of is. But exquisite stuff. It absolutely is. And of course, being a Kevin Ryan, this is special stuff.
That certainly helps. It's a great sample of Brazilian rosewood. And I think after hearing it, you're going to start to hear some of the magic that Brazilian rosewood contains. And even more so, we're going to go through 3 different rosewoods.
Yeah,
3 different rosewoods today. So you'll be able to actually hear like, oh, Brazilian rosewood does sound different. It's not just rare. It actually has some unique musical qualities. So why don't you give us a little play, and then we can discuss a little further.
Not bad.
No, not bad, not bad. I immediately what strikes me with Brazilian rosewood is actually what you just heard, and that is just this wonderful sustain. Now, again, I think we need to be clear in saying that the top is playing a role here, but we're going to look at the specific flavors that Brazilian rosewood brings to the tone. What's your, if somebody was to ask you how does Brazilian rosewood sound, what are your 3 words that you would offer?
Warm, clear. This is not one word, but a mid-range forwardness.
Yeah.
As opposed to what you might refer to as a scooped mid-range.
Yeah. I that's exactly what I was going to say, because I think a standard Indian rosewood, again, you're going to hear that a little bit later, is very scooped in the mid-range. You get a real strong bass presence, you get a real strong treble presence, but the mids are kind of just, well, they're scooped. They're lower in volume, they're lower in presence. With this, I feel like you get a real complete package. I almost want to call it glassy in a way. But I think you could almost interpret that as very thin sounding, but I think it's very articulate and very full bodied. Being that that's the case, what do you think a great application for Brazilian rosewood would be in terms of maybe playing style or guitar body size, in terms of what's a good match for it on a guitar?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's, in my opinion, one of the more versatile woods out there that can be great in a tiny parlor guitar or a big old jumbo, and kind of play a lot of roles in between there stylistically as well. Just maybe because of our association with vintage guitars, I tend to really love hearing Brazilian rosewood guitars in a little bit more traditional style of music, whether that be bluegrass, ragtime, even old school, just pounding out old folk tunes, that's such a familiar and in the pocket sort of character, that Brazilian rosewood has, that I just think sounds good with classic nostalgic kind of music.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things you mentioned, its versatility. I've got a Tom Sands guitar with Brazilian rosewood on the back and sides, and I use it primarily for like alternate tunings and fingerstyle. Yeah. And it seems to react to a light touch, and it really flavors the sound of the guitar. So I think just a nod to its versatility. But yeah, I think the vintage arena is probably where this guitar, or rather this Tonewood, really does shine because of its common association.
Sure.
Can I take that one for a spin for a second?
I would love to hear you play it. I would love to hear you play it.
Yeah, this is interesting. Like I said when we kind of kick this off, there's really a difference of what you feel as a player, what you hear as a player, versus what you hear out front. What are you getting out front, as I play?
Well, exactly like you said when I was playing it, I'm getting more of that glassiness.
Yeah.
Like just a beautiful shimmer, fidelity in the tone. Like I said, just a clarity that is pretty nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of, on the player's end too, and I don't know if you notice this, there seems to be a lot of detail to the notes that help you, you get very solid note separation, but with wonderful character and body to each note. I mean, the Ryan acoustic flutes definitely help with this. I will say from the player's perspective, you get a different kind of monitoring situation, but just a phenomenal example of Brazilian rosewood. I'm glad we started out with such a lauded wood.
Indeed. Start big. We're at Eddie's.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's good to start out here because I think slowly you'll start to realize that Brazilian rosewood is not expensive because of just the lore. I think it has musically a lot to offer, a lot more than some of the other examples. Yep. Maybe not a lot more, but it's very different. It's very musical. Even in its raw form, if you've ever heard somebody tap a plank of Brazilian rosewood, it feels like it comes alive. It's pretty wild.
Exactly.
What do you got? What's next, Matt? Where are we going from Brazilian rosewood?
We've got some more fun options here. This is one I've been wanting to hear you play for a little while. So I'm going to play it first.
Okay. What back and side? Well, what's the guitar, and then of course hit us with what's on the back and side.
Well, so as I said, I pulled out some of our favorites. No question. This is actually an Eddie's Guitars exclusive limited run that we were able to do with our friends at Bourgeois. This is an SJC. So kind of that tight-waisted body there with a beautiful Florentine cutaway, a rather generous Florentine cutaway there. Sinker Redwood on the top of this guitar with a pretty filthy set of high contrast Macassar Ebony on the back and sides. Really a phenomenal set of wood. And the boys at Bourgeois sure spoiled us on this set of wood here. But a beautiful, beautiful guitar.
And this is, I mean, I would say this is one of the maybe more rare woods that you would encounter. Not in like Brazilian rosewood land rare, but like in terms of its use on guitars.
It is, and I will say, I was actually just communicating with a few builders that we both actually know pretty well. And they mentioned to me, man, Macassar Ebony is getting difficult to get a hold of.
Oh, no
and
kidding.
More expensive to get a hold of. So interesting intel there.
Yeah, yeah. It's so different.
Real different.
It's so just almost obnoxiously different. So Macassar Ebony, what are the three words? I'm really pushing Matt's vocabulary here. What are the words you would describe the tone of Macassar Ebony?
Thick and juicy.
That is only three words: thick and juicy.
I mean, it just has that fatness to it, and again, not at the expense of clarity, which is something I'm always conscientious about, because we both do open tunings,
Yeah.
lower stuff. You gotta have that definition, especially in those lower registers for stuff like that. And Macassar Ebony is such a great wood for that. I mean, you can tune down real low, and it seems like that clarity just kind of keeps maintained there really well.
I get a really wonderful, like, smoky, almost dark sound from it. But again, when I say smoky and dark, you would think, kind of fat, like globby notes, but they're not.
Not muddy.
It's a very distinct, pointed sound with what I consider a very dark character. Really cool to hear it on this guitar, this shape paired with Sinker Redwood. Right. Because I think the Redwood almost brings that out more.
Yes.
I think this is a fantastic example of Macassar. Ironically enough, I have another Tom Sands at home that has ebony on the back and
I knew
side.
that was coming.
It's Crelicum ebony. But I think it shares a lot of the similar qualities. And Matt mentioned open tunings, and I keep that guitar down to like almost a C tuning, very, very low from standard, and it has this wonderful clarity that I cannot find a way to make that guitar muddy. Yeah. It just is what it is, and Macassar is really great for that, I think. In terms of playing style or how somebody would approach this wood, or what type of guitar they would put it on, what do you think is the best fit?
Well, I really like this in the context of almost the opposite of what I said about the first guitar, a more contemporary style guitar. And I love, admittedly, this very example of the use in this guitar. It really provides dramatic sustain. It's a dense wood, so it's a little piano-esque in that way that sustain just kind of keeps rolling. And I really like that for kind of a dramatic type of music, big chords, open chords, maybe lower tunings, that type of stuff. Just in general, what I associate with a more contemporary, maybe even borderline new age, acoustic type playing.
Yeah.
It's awesome for that.
Yeah. I think, and I'll just add, I don't know if this would be, I've never played one, so I'll need to put that out there. I don't know if it would be a good match for a really big guitar. I don't know that for sure. I'm sure it would matter if it was treated a certain way versus not. But I could see the bass of a big guitar, because it's a bigger guitar, maybe clouding it up a little bit. But I don't know. Have you ever played a big guitar with Macassar on it?
I have. I know we've had a number of larger, like concert jumbo Goodalls with Macassar Ebony. And I think exactly like you said, so much boils down to what's the contribution of the builder putting into it.
Sure.
What's their portion aside from just the wood. And I got to say there was no muddiness in that guitar.
No kidding.
It was slamming.
Yeah, the Goodall. We've been playing some guitars. Let's be honest. But the Goodalls that we've got one back here somewhere. I've been really floored.
Yeah.
In terms of clarity. Let me give this one a spin. This is
Indeed.
What a gorgeous guitar. What's the holly, right?
English holly, yeah, on the bridge. It's real reminiscent looking of like old ivory. Literally, because on the kind of turn of the century Martins, you would sometimes see those ivory bridges on there, and this is such a similar look. It's a very dense wood.
Yeah.
So it's doing all. It's not really dampening anything. It's a really it's well used in a bridge material.
It's a good transmitter.
Bingo.
So Player's End, what's your evaluation?
I love it.
Yeah.
Again, it's so clear. It's got that thickness to it that I really love. And again, I'm mostly sitting down playing guitar by myself. So from that perspective, a guitar like that is it's warm and cozy. It fills space.
Yeah.
I love it.
It almost, again, the guitar build itself has a lot to do with it, but it almost gives you some feedback in your guts.
Yeah.
Like you get this really wonderful, almost bass pop / rumble in your guts. That is just when you're able to hear the darkness and the sustain long term. I think that's a pretty incredible feature of the instrument.
That's a good point, because a lot of times those upper frequencies are the ones that kind of tend to linger. But when the warmth keeps rolling with it, that's pretty fun.
So that's the Macassar Ebony. What a fine example. I mean, it's absolutely bananas.
I have to just
looks fake.
Just shout out to Dana Bourgeois and his crew there at Bourgeois. They really went to bat, not only on picking these Tonewoods for us, but Andrew there at Bourgeois. The inlay work he did on this run of guitars is just silly amazing.
It is
just
gorgeous.
amazing. Love that one.
Next up.
And folks, of course, if you've got questions along the way, don't be shy.
Oh yeah.
Do not be shy. And did we tell anybody Hondro's here?
What's up, guys? I'm here.
I'm here too.
I'm holding down the bass lines back here. No significant questions yet, but we do have some of our normal players joining us. We're happy to see you guys, as well as Mr. Bryce Rogero
Nice.
and Shock
Nice.
the Fox hanging out in the queue.
How you doing, Ty? Everybody go check out Shock the Fox.
But yeah, take it away, guys.
All right. What are we looking at with this little number here?
So this is a brand spanking new one that we actually just got in the shop here. This is the new 2025 Martin 00028, and this one's got a nice sunburst on the top, but real, kind of classic Martin 28 style. Herringbone, sunburst on this particular example here. This has the 1933 Ambertone burst on this example here. And the back and sides that we'll be focusing on with this guitar are the straight grain East Indian Rosewood. One of the more common, Tonewoods out there, I think is safe to say.
I would say, yeah. I mean, it was the first, when I first started working at a store back in a while ago, 2005, somewhere in there, I ran into mahogany and rosewood. That was it. That's all I knew. Mm-hmm. And then I started hearing rumblings of these other Tonewoods existing, and I was kind of like, wow. And then, sitting here today, I'm looking around, I'm like, I'm checking some boxes here today. But I think this is one of the more popular ones you're going to see on a wide range of guitars, even some import guitars that are all solid wood, generally mahogany or rosewood. East Indian rosewood is probably the most popular rosewood, I would say, in terms of what I've encountered. Do you echo that, or do you feel like...
I 100% echo that, and one of the results of that is the fact that it's one of the farmed rosewoods.
Yeah.
It's a plantation wood, so it's deliberately being made for purposes specifically like this, as opposed to old growth or naturally fallen reclaimed wood. This is kind of specifically being grown for purposes just like this, which is cool. So, but yeah, again, just tried and true, short scale orchestra kind of body shape here, 14 fretter. Classic for a reason, man.
Yeah. So East Indian rosewood. Give me the words. What are the three words you'd use to describe?
Well, and then I want to use the Brazilian we looked at earlier as a reference point. We've got to do that a little bit here because we are, looking at kind of similar things in some cases. Exactly like both of us said, less mids, noticeably less mids. That shiny sparkle up in the top, a real sweet bass response. Mm-hmm. Again, that wetness, we call it, that rosewood tends to have with the presence of overtones. The kind of harmonic complexity is all there in this guitar.
Yeah.
The like I said, that mid-range presence that kind of punches a little bit is definitely more subdued in this guitar, I'm hearing.
Yeah, I get that. Having played the Brazilian rosewood first, I think was a really good move. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we wanted to come out of the gate with a real banger, but it was a great reference point because now you get to hear East Indian Rosewood almost with a different pair of glasses on, and I think the mid-range scoop is very accentuated, in comparison to the Brazilian.
Right.
That's what I gathered immediately, just from hearing it out this way. Also, I think there's a in this particular example, there's almost a cloudiness to the bass. I'm almost getting less articulation from it,
Sure.
which I didn't hear on the Brazilian. So interesting. I'm processing this a lot from the listener's end, which I don't get to do that often. Usually, I'm holding the guitar. So East Indian Rosewood, what do you think it's good for? Is it a utility wood? Is it a Swiss Army knife in terms of body size of the guitar, playing application, or do you feel like it kind of leans more towards one thing or another?
In my opinion, I think the market has dictated it's a Swiss Army knife wood.
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, you see it on guitars ranging from, entry level solid wood, all solid wood guitars having East Indian Rosewood, all the way up to exquisitely built, small bench and even, very high-end factory-built guitars as well. It's incredibly versatile, I think, in what you can do with it. And I think it's one of those woods, maybe easy for me to say because there's just a lot of it out there, a lot of examples of it out there in guitar form. But it's one of those woods that I think can be manipulated heavily by the influence of the builder.
Yeah.
It seems like I've really kind of found that in different builds from different makers.
Yeah.
I think it's rightly so one of the most versatile tone woods out there, and the fact that it's a monetarily somewhat approachable because of how it's grown and processed. I'm good with all of it.
Yeah. Let me give that one a spin. We've actually been doing a interesting run of videos. You'll see those later. But had some time with this guitar, that's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, even from the perspective of picking it, it's a real hard two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
The mids are there, but they're very low. It's almost it's like a big smiley face. Bass side, treble side. That's kind of what you get. But like you said, a classic for a reason. I mean, I've played this on dreads. I've played this on small, tiny guitars. That Style 1 Santa Cruz that we played.
Sure.
That was Indian Rosewood, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, very versatile wood, and for good reason. Like I think you said that the market dictates that, and I very, very much agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where are we going from East Indian Rosewood? I'm like,
oh boy. We're gonna switch it up. We're gonna get away from Rosewood for a minute.
Okay.
We're gonna go straight hog.
Straight hog.
Straight hog, baby.
What do we have here, Matt?
Folks, this is a special guitar for sure from our friends at Santa Cruz Guitar Company. This is a variation of the 1934 Dreadnought Mahogany from Santa Cruz. And so what that implies in terms of tone woods is a 1930s harvested Adirondack spruce top on this guitar, and also vintage 1930s harvested Honduran mahogany for the back and sides of this guitar. And aside from that, it's all hot hide glue, forward shifted Adirondack braces, all that good stuff. So it's got all the ingredients, all the boxes checked.
It's I mean, to listen to a specimen of mahogany is one thing. To listen to this specimen of mahogany is another, because it's a fine. It might be the finest example of what mahogany can do and what it contributes. Give it a spin there. So when Matt's about to use the word dry to describe mahogany, that's dry. And go ahead. You use your words, and then I'll expand on it.
You took them all out of my mouth already. Yes, what Tony said. Exactly that. We're talking such a emphasis on those pure fundamental notes, and that's a good thing when it's this quality of fundamental notes.
Yeah.
There's just a clarity, and when you go after it, I want to hear you do it a little bit. When you go after it, this thing growls in such an awesome way. And old mahogany, it's dried out, it's light, it's just so responsive, so eager to have those dynamics that punch. It's that's a special thing. And the guitar, I mean, just picking it up, it's just there's nothing to it.
We are just on the same wavelength, because I was just going to say, if you were to hold a rosewood dread and a mahogany dread, you'd very distinctly feel the difference between the two. Rosewood is considerably heavier. Not bad or good, just something noticeable. But I think it also helps. It always helped me keep track of what sounded like what.
Yeah. Because
mahogany has a lighter sound. It's more feathery. It's more direct.
Airy.
Airy is a great descriptor. Yeah. It has this wonderful punch and almost piercing quality, but not brittle by any sense of the word. When I say piercing, I mean like the notes pop, but they have a little bit of a poof behind them, a little bit of a cloud that kind of supports them. It's not just all strings. One of the guitars that I got from you was a Thompson Cuban mahogany back and sides. That was the guitar that made me fall in love with mahogany. And I should say that, the array of Tonewoods we're looking at today, we're not trying to decide which one's the best, because I think these are all fine examples. I think they all have their place. So just keep that in mind. I think it's unfair to say this is the best Tonewood, period, stop. I think it's good to hear what they have to offer. And this one, I fell in love with mahogany with that Thompson. And I always considered myself a rosewood person. I'm like, mahogany, it's not even as expensive as rosewood. It couldn't be any better. It's phenomenal in the right scenario. It's just a powerful, powerful wood. What do you feel is a great representation of mahogany? Rather, what type of guitar body do you like to see it on? What type of player do you like to see play it?
You're looking at it, man. Yeah. A big guitar in mahogany. That's where I love mahogany the most, because as we talked about, the larger guitar tends to favor a little bit deeper, bassier frequency. Just where mahogany kind of sits on its own. It's kind of right down the middle. It does have that mid-range presence that we were kind of talking about, but otherwise it can be a very, very well-balanced wood. And in a big guitar, especially if it's a lighter physically lighter weight variation of mahogany, It can do anything. I mean, you'll finger style it. You can beat the heck out of it, playing it as hard as you want. Really, just a killer all around wood, and especially if you're not looking for the grand piano-esque, big, huge overtone harmonic presence, mahogany has a little bit more of that. I've heard a couple people call it an honest sound, and I think
it's
that's
an honest,
spot on.
for sure. I think it gets a bad rap too because, at least I should say this specific mahogany, standard mahogany, if you could say that, isn't necessarily a jaw-dropping, figured wood.
Sure.
We'll get there later. You got a real special guitar coming up. But generally, you look at it and it's like, oh, okay. Doesn't really strike you. Unless you really get into it and you're like, whoa, that's a fine example. Like, you really get into it.
Well, and again, picking on Richard Hoover, but the way that he talks about it, he's like, woodworkers love working with mahogany because assuming you get a good chunk of it, he said it's like a big cake. He said it's consistent. You don't have to worry about cracks. It's great to work with. It's easy to bend. So from a building standpoint, we don't build guitars, neither of us.
No.
But it's cool to hear their end of it too.
Yeah.
And kind of what they appreciate about it. But beautiful stuff.
Let me give that thing a spin.
Please do. I want to hear you dig on that a little bit.
Horsepower, man. Just horsepower. And just so, I think, honest. It's the first time I've heard mahogany described as honest, and I think that is it. It is pure fundamental, very little on overtone, and just powerful, very forward, very present. And when we're talking about fundamental versus overtones, I think it was cool to start with rosewood because rosewood does have a lot of, think of it as like a field of wildflowers. It has this set of overtones, these supporting tones that support the fundamental note, the singular note. Whereas mahogany is like a big tall sunflower in a field. At least that's the metaphor I'm going to use today. But this is a hell of a guitar. Out front, I feel it as a player, but out front, what do you gather? When I really dig in, I'm feeling a lot of kickback from the guitar. I'm feeling a lot of that kind of warmness. What do you gather out front?
It's loud.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, you're not playing with other instruments, but I'm imagining other stuff going on.
Sure.
And that's just going to sit right above, it's just the frequency it falls in at, just punches, really active. I can almost feel the air coming off the top of this guitar.
It's just a fine example. And I think, it's cool to hear Richard Hoover describe it as it's like working with cake because it is so uniform. And if you get up close on a mahogany guitar, I mean, you can see it. It is uniform. I mean, the pores kind of lay out very symmetrically across the wood. Again, I'm speaking a little above my pay grade here because I don't build guitars and I'm not a woodworker. But just visually looking at it, it looks very... it's pretty much the same. It's very consistent.
Right, exactly. Which is, good to work with if you work with wood.
Yeah. So mahogany, I think, is also, I don't know if we mentioned this, but very common in terms of what folks would run into.
Good point. Yeah, that's aside from East Indian rosewood, mahogany and some variation, or maybe not 1930s harvested. But in every case, but mahogany will be the other fairly common tonewood out there. And again, I think that's a result of both just the history of both Martin and Gibson guitars, amongst others, but Martin and Gibson certainly in the early days, and sort of the result of the success that they had with those woods.
Comparably, I think people will likely run into sapele.
Sure.
What's your take on sapele versus mahogany? Because I feel like that's maybe a hot button issue. I've always lump them in the same category. I think that's mainly because the look is very similar.
Sure.
Tonally, though, what do you gather from sapele or mahogany, or do you think they sit in the same lane?
They're real close, and
Yeah.
if I were forced to say, I think a difference that I hear is this, it would be for lack of better terms, I know this is open to interpretation, the woody quality of
Okay.
it. I feel genuine Honduran mahogany, especially the old growth stuff like this, tends to have more of that wood presence.
Okay.
Maybe what my ear interprets as that is more punch in the mids.
Okay.
Is maybe
Okay.
a different way to say that.
Yeah.
Where sapele seems to be a little mellower.
Okay.
That general statement though.
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like it's splitting hairs. If I was blindfolded, I think I could tell the difference between a old growth example versus like sapele.
Sure.
But if I was looking at just kind of a standard, regular mahogany versus sapele, I think it'd be really hard for me to tell the difference.
I believe I agree with you.
I'd love to say that, yeah, I've got this incredible ear, but I don't think I'd pass the blindfold test. Or it'd be very tough.
I don't believe I would either.
Yeah.
Not afraid to admit.
So where do we go from the 1930s old growth mahogany? What's
Well,
our next stop?
We're gonna switch gears ever so slightly. We're gonna head over to something maybe a little more familiar.
What do we got here?
This is a Gibson Doves in Flight model, and we were actually just a super quick side story on this guitar. We were fortunate enough to actually go to Gibson and pick these woods.
Oh, nice.
This particular Wildfire burst, the finish on this guitar is not a finish that they typically put on this guitar, so we were able to kind of
Gotcha.
put it together custom with them.
I
a little
thought
bit.
that looked different. Is it like
Yeah.
is there like a dark pour fill on it?
There is.
Okay.
Yeah, and it almost, it's not, but it almost has like that hand rubbed
Yeah.
kind of look. You really see a lot of that medullary silking. We'll see the back as well in just a moment. But Sitka spruce top on this example here, and I've got to say a very nice cut of Sitka spruce on this example, and a very fine set of quilted maple on the back and
Yeah.
sides. Nice burst treatment there as well.
It's nice to hear maple with mahogany, because if I was to say, or rather not with mahogany, but compared to, if I was to say the three big ones that you'd likely run into would be Indian rosewood, mahogany, and maple.
Agreed.
I think that's
Agreed.
fair to say. Probably the three most common
Classics.
the classics. Yeah. So let's give this one a play. I'm curious. I'm excited for the folks to hear this, because it's, well, you'll hear.
Nice little thump to
Yeah.
that
yeah.
one.
What's the trifecta of descriptors for maple?
Well, deep, again, dry,
Yeah.
if you ask me, and clear.
Yeah.
It's not every maple guitar I've played possesses this quality, but this is a good example of a maple that has some muscle. It's
Yeah.
got that bass that you can definitely feel. It's got that thump in the
Yeah.
bass. It's really fun. Maple, though, not totally unlike mahogany, tends to have, to my ear, kind of a fundamentally based
Yeah.
kind of sound, not
Yeah.
tons of the arrays of harmonics and stuff typically involved here.
I always think of the notes out of a maple guitar as hard edged. You know, whereas I think a mahogany is almost a softer single note, solid, powerful, softer single note, and not softer in terms of volume, but like the quality of the note. This feels very pinpointy. Yeah. Feels very. You used the term surgical before when we were talking about the tone of an instrument. To me, to my ear, maple falls in that category. Yeah. I think maple is an interesting wood. It's one that I have a tumultuous relationship with.
I know you do.
I totally wrote off maple guitars. I was like, I don't want a maple guitar, not a chance. But it's guitars like this one, and I have an OM custom at home. That's bird's eye maple back and sides. Completely changed my view of maple guitars. This is out front. This guitar sounds vastly different from when I played it. I was just like, what is happening? Because I played this before we hung it on the wall, and I was like, this is a great example of maple. I did not perceive the power that's actually coming out of the front of the guitar. Right. It's crazy.
Well, and I believe it sounds really good in this room. I think that this is one of those guitars, just after recording a million guitars, I think this would be an amazing recording guitar.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be very fussy with mics, and this is going to sound maybe counterproductive, but because it does not have the world's longest sustain.
Yeah.
And maple tends to not always have the longest quality of sustain. It's easy to play. You know, it's not stepping on other stuff that you're doing.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing, not necessarily the big, stuff, but a little more picky stuff.
Yeah.
It really stays out of your way.
Yeah.
In so many words.
What's in terms of playing style or in terms of specific body size guitar, what do you like, to see maple exhibited in?
Call me whatever you want to call me. I don't know what I was going to say.
Where do I start?
I do like it in curvy guitars.
Yeah.
J185, J200, a square shoulder dread's great, a slope shoulder dread's great. Basically what I'm saying is Gibson-esque context.
Sure.
I love maple.
Yeah.
Gibson has been known on the acoustic end of things to have a number of maple guitars that are real successful, real classics in the guitar industry. And I think for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
I just really like that. It leans into the kind of mid-range thing that Gibson tends to have, that character. I just really like that.
Yeah. Let me give this one a swirl.
Absolutely.
A swirl. Yeah. Apparently I work at an ice cream shop now. We were talking about this before. This is kind of a narrower nut width on this particular guitar.
It is.
Slimmer than an 1 1/11/16. So
1 5/8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little tight up top.
Small hands. That's a great neck.
Yeah. This guitar sounds 100% different on this end.
You took the words out of my mouth.
I am floored.
It's like two completely different instruments.
Absolutely. I think this just, to me, I said it earlier, it's interesting to hear a guitar being played, you being the player versus, being on the other end of it. This is maybe the finest example of that. Because I don't get a sense of power on this end. But after hearing it, I know what's coming out of the front, or I have an idea of what's coming out of the front, and it's a snappy, powerful.
Right.
It's got horsepower.
Yeah.
Which again I did not perceive at all. A beautiful piece of quilted maple, just gorgeous. I love that dark pour filler.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
It's a cool touch. Cool touch.
Very fun.
All right,
Guys, say hello to Aaron Lucas in the chat.
Aaron.
Hello, sir.
For those of you who are uninitiated, Aaron Lucas is, in fact, dark forest cypress.
And I feel like I should leave at this point, knowing that he's listening to me talk about Tonewoods. I feel like I should just go out the back door, never come back.
If that were the case, imposter syndrome would have gotten me many years ago, friend. You're fine. You're just fine.
Well, it's cool. You know, I feel like there's a lot of value in hearing people talk about tone. You know, there's no worldly, you know, widely accepted words that we use to describe tone. Like, my stringiness could mean something different to Matt's stringiness, but the more that you have the discussions around it, the more that you hear the guitar, hear somebody describe the guitar, the more you actually start to build your vocabulary, and you can kind of start to communicate what you like, what you don't like. And that really is a huge kind of side benefit of what we're doing here today, is just to hear the words, hear the guitars, start to create your own vocabulary around the tone. Tom and I had some great discussions early on when he was building my first guitar, and he said, this is part of the process. He's like, we need to talk. You need to send me, you know, examples of what you hear and describe it so that I know what you're talking about and you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So this is it's just a great opportunity. I'm thrilled to be doing this. I love this one. What do we got?
That makes two of us.
Yeah.
This is a very, very fun guitar from our friends at Collings. This is an OM3 42 style, so a little bit of ornamentation on this guitar with the shell around the top and everything. Baked Adirondack spruce on this example, which is really just a nice slice of Adirondack there. But the star of the show in this context is the straight grain quarter sawn Cocobolo back and sides, and it's a Collings, so you better believe it's going to be serious stuff. But this is serious stuff. I love that back strip too.
That's beautiful.
Mosaic back strip. But you know, Cocobolo you will find in a lot of different appearances. Whether real straight grain like this, super figured, real dark, real brick red. So it's cool. It's got all sorts of different personalities.
Yeah, and it's a rose. It is a
is
lot of times
a true
called Mexican
rosewood.
Is that right?
Well, so it is a Dalbergia. So by definition, it is a rosewood.
Okay.
It is, yeah. Native from Mexico.
Okay.
But some of our very favorite stuff, man. So some of our favorite guitars have been Cocobolo guitars, and this, to me, you know, we'll get there. We'll play it a little bit. In fact, let's just
do that.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
So much. So, let's just hit with the big three. How do you describe Cocobolo?
Perfect.
Well, if we're going by syllables, perfect. Perfect. How do you describe? So we looked at East Indian rosewood. We looked at Brazilian rosewood. Now we're looking at Cocobolo, which is a rosewood. Is it the same?
What I'm hearing, and I want to obviously know your opinion, if we took that Indian rosewood and fed it full of a whole bunch of steroids, that's what this is.
Yeah.
Take that smiley face, make it even happier.
Yeah.
The low end is lower, deeper, longer sustain. The top end is just as sparkly, if not more so. But I feel like that middle area is just out of the way.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way at all.
Right.
In fact, again, what my ear associates with certain things, but I hear modern vibe out of this guitar. Glassiness all the way, shimmer, great sustain. I mean, just gorgeous sustain and real active harmonics.
Like crunchy ice. You know the white ice when you step on it? That's what I get.
Yeah, crisp. Cracking a Sprite open.
Yeah. It's I was on my way to hearing what you described, and then you hit the bass note, and I was like, it locked it in for me. Because when I heard that solo bass note, nice and loud and present, it was just so defined and so deep. But and then strumming a chord is like the mids are just out of the way.
Yeah,
they're just out of the way. They're there, but they're way down here. Perfect. I mean, I love it. It's perfect. What do you like to see Cocobolo on? Because everything I've played it on is awesome. I've actually never heard it on a big guitar like a Dread or a jumbo size guitar. But I've played the small bodies, the OMs. I've played a 12 fret with it on it, and I've loved it in every scenario I've encountered it. What about yourself?
I tend to prefer it in small body through like mid body.
Okay.
For me, the sweet spot for Cocobolo is OM. Is just OM. That's such a great middle ground. I think you're achieving the killer bass that Cocobolo can have. You're achieving again that detail on the top end that it can have, and you're not really sacrificing anything, I don't think, on either end. Depending on the rest of the contribution of everything else. As you said, it can be just as versatile strumming it, doing a great, singer-songwriter rhythm thing, or, I particularly like the detail it has and the sustain it has for the more delicate kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like with the Rosewoods we've looked at, it's almost like going to the eye doctor and they're flipping the whatever the lens is in that machine. They're like better or worse. And as you zone in on clarity, I feel like Cocobolo is like that crystal clear, like high definition almost.
Agree.
High fidelity type of situation. This is a beautiful piece too. I'm used to seeing Cocobolo in like all sorts of wild, crazy figures, sapwood, like just crazy. But this is, I mean, when you said quarter sawn, I looked at it at the side and I'm like, oh wow, because you can see a lot of cross grain in this too. It's really beautiful. Let me give that one a spin.
I was going to say, for context, maybe we'll continue the theme because last time Tony was in town, he took a Cocobolo Collings home with him.
Yeah, in fact, we did a live stream, and I was here, and I think it was my desert island pick of the guitars we looked at, to which I had to call Matt upon returning home and promptly get it coming home with me.
What did I tell you once you decided you wanted to buy it?
Yeah, so I called Matt in the morning, and I said, Matt, that single O'Callings Cocobolo back and sides, I'm like, I think I'm ready. He's like, it's sold this morning. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess it's a sign that I wasn't supposed to get it. He's like, I'm just kidding. Not a funny joke.
I tortured you for about a second and a half.
And I'm like, are you serious? You're like, yeah. I wanted to do this on this guitar. It just,
oh yeah.
Good God, man. Forget about it. Forget about it.
It's almost angry sounding.
It
like
just, I mean, when you get a pretty wide range, you know, depending on your pick placement. I think this is pretty reactive to that as well. I will add. Good God, man. I gotta go home. I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna be living on the street pretty soon.
Cocobolo collection.
Yeah, I'll be sleeping on Cocobolo guitars. Where are we going from that? Because, that's the last one that I have played that I know of from what you brought in. This one I have not touched.
Make sure she's in tune real quick before we get...
That's a stunning instrument from a builder I've never played.
We'll get there.
What are we looking at here?
This is from my friend Bryce Rogero, and when we were looking at this specific Tonewood, without hesitation, this was the guitar that popped into my head.
Visually or body size?
Just in terms of the Tonewood.
Oh, okay.
Because I knew we were going to get to this Tonewood, and as soon as I thought, oh, which one of those are we? I thought, oh, well, that's a no-brainer. So this is Bryce's RGOM. This happens to be a 12-fret variation. He also does a 14-fret, so we tightened this one up a little bit, shortened the neck down, sunk the bridge down a bit there. European spruce top on this guitar. I just love those purple little burl details in there. And the main subject here on this guitar is a frightening set of Madagascar Rosewood. Get it in the frame there a little bit.
Good God.
I mean, it looks like it's 1,000,000 years old, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like a prehistoric
It does.
or something.
It does.
Just gorgeous.
I think there's a fossil in there.
Seriously. There's gorgeous tonality to this wood and grain, and that just a little bit of sapwood down there is pretty romantic.
Sorry, can I just detract from what you're saying? I just noticed that the heel cap mimics the back.
The continuation.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. What a cool touch.
The little
Bryce,
things.
that's choice. That's choice.
He's got an eye.
Yeah.
But yeah, Madagascar Rosewood is kind of the subject here. But man, a sweet machine. And again, I think this is a great example. Of what we can expect out of Madagascar Rosewood.
Yeah.
Let's try that again.
No, it's okay. Okay, this is gonna be okay. That's yeah. I was just noticing little details up at the nut here too. I'm like looking at the guitar; it's beautiful. So Madagascar Rosewood. This is our 4th Rosewood.
Yes.
You know, are we beating the Rosewood dead horse? I don't think so, because they're all different. They're all different. What do you get from Madagascar that you haven't gotten, or rather, how would you describe it? You know, having described 3 different Rosewoods already.
I think in my experience, and again, the way that my ears tend to work, Madagascar Rosewood to me is the most similar to Brazilian Rosewood.
Yeah.
If you want to make a claim like that, I'll make that claim. The thing that I hear that differentiates it is its warmth. I don't hear quite as much as what we were hearing, kind of those pop of those mids from the Brazilian.
Yeah.
I feel like the emphasis is in the lower mid-range in the Madagascar Rosewood, where it's a little bit more in the upper mid-range with Brazilian Rosewood, a little bit more of that upper-end information. This, to me, overall, just has more warmth to it.
Yeah.
Maybe, for lack of better terms, more darkness to the sound. But again, I'm not hearing any muddiness. It's just that cozy, sweet kind of blanket kind of thing.
Yeah, I refer to it as like a almost bloom.
Yes.
Like there's a bloom to the notes where, again, this is really cool to have this discussion just because you'll hear different words used. But you described in a very very different way as to what I feel like I was hearing is this wonderful bloom in the low end, almost like the old Batman, the 60s Batman. You know, the Joker would bust in and throw those smoke bombs. Yep. That's kind of what I imagine the bass notes to look like.
Yeah.
But different. It's different than Brazilian, but it's like 80% there.
Right.
But just a wildly awesome Tonewood. In terms of application, what do you like to see it on? Does it matter?
Honestly, for me, it's right there next to Brazilian Rosewood in terms of what it can do, what it should do, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it can do everything.
Yeah.
Put it on a parlor guitar and fucking plonk all day long.
Yeah.
Put it, on a big dread and just go after it. It'll do it. So.
Yeah, I've got a Matty Dread, another Thompson that is. It's got it.
Yeah.
It's got that bloom. I can't think of another word to describe it. Let me give this one a run. I haven't played this one yet. It's gorgeous. It's going to be hard to not just give it a quick little look, little peek. Beautiful bridge. Ugh, this is what a touch here.
Isn't it?
That is just so gorgeous. That's what I mean. That. Almost like has a second wave attached to it. Okay, I'll play now. So cool to play. You don't really have to play it hard at all. Like at all. I probably would never use a pick with this guitar, but I wanted to give a sample.
How do you feel from behind it?
It's a good question. I kind of got lost a little bit. The best way I can describe this is I feel like this is a complete unit and it's just all moving. I feel the neck, resonating. Now I'm talking about the guitar as a whole here. But in terms of the back and the side, specifically Madagascar Rosewood, and I noticed this on my Dread too, the best way I could describe it is it has a second wave. I feel it, this like second impulse, this second almost attack. I'm really struggling to describe this one. It's like looking at waves, you know?
It's like coming back around for a second
yes,
pass.
Yes,
Yep,
and
yep.
you hear it on the sustain, but as I'm playing, I hear it as the chords just ring briefly.
Momentum.
It's almost as if, and I actually have noticed this on my dread too, it's almost as if you can allow for more space as you're playing because the guitar is really functioning for you. It's working in conjunction with you and what you're doing. You don't have to hammer it at all. That's a phenomenal example.
Yeah.
Wow.
Love this.
This has been so cool to hear 4 different Rosewoods not back to back, but in the same room, you know, hearing it, you know, from the front end, playing it. Because a lot of times I think we know what they sound like, but hearing things in person is just a totally different ballgame. Where did this one sneak in from?
Well, so you thought we were done with the Rosewoods.
5?
So, a lot of folks out there, of course at this level maybe you do know, but maybe a lot of folks out there don't realize not all Rosewoods are called Rosewoods. Of course, Cocobolo.
Yeah.
Sometimes they call it Cocobolo Rosewood.
Yeah.
That's fine. However, this next guitar is a fun one and maybe unexpected for some of the people looking at Rosewoods, but we've got a McNally Model S Custom, and this has one of the blue Sinker Sitka spruce tops, so you can see that iridescent grayish, bluish, greenish, reclaimed from float camps up in
This is
Alaska.
a cool piece. It's got these little flashes like pink yellow there.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just a ridiculous top. 14 fret, kind of small body, kind of concert size guitar, but African Blackwood on the back and sides. And despite it being called a Blackwood, this is, again, by definition, a Dalbergia. So by definition, a rosewood. And it's so often compared to other tone woods, not rosewood, stuff like Macassar Ebony, you know, stuff, real hard, dense tone woods, which this is a hard, dense tone wood, but again, a dramatic one. And, you know, aptly named Blackwood. It's real dark there. I promise you folks, there's grain. In fact, this set almost has some burl kind of looking figure in it. It is, with our lighting in here, it's going to be tough to capture, so I apologize in advance. But man, a gorgeous set.
Yeah, it really is. And I feel bad for folks not being able to get this close to it because it has got some really cool figure. But I think the name, as you suggested, African Blackwood, almost looks stark black.
It really does. And it should probably be noted that by today's standards, this tone wood is basically on par with rarity of like Brazilian rosewood. It's becoming expensive, quite honestly, because of its rarity, because of how special of a material it is. Indeed.
That is a hell of a guitar, as the full package.
Indeed.
So this is now our 6th Rosewood. If you got your bingo card out and you have another Rosewood spot on it, check it off.
Fifth or 6th?
Indian, Brazilian, Cocobolo,
Madagascar, African Blackwood.
Oh,
5.
It's not our 6th. Sorry,
And
no
we got
bingo.
more guitars. We can go find another one.
5th. It's still a lot of Rosewoods, okay? What are you getting from African Blackwood that isn't represented, or is it replicable to some of the others that we've tried?
So we talked about, or again, this is my perception. Everybody's got opinions, and that's awesome. We talked about how I feel Cocobolo is like Indian rosewood on steroids.
Yeah.
This to me is like Cocobolo on more steroids. Even more. It's so glassy. It's so shimmery. It is so you can feel the reflection of the actual sound waves coming off of this back.
Yeah.
It is so active in how it responds. It is again among the more dense tone woods in terms of weight, stiffness, all that stuff. So it's not the lightest tone wood out there, and I think with that contributes to the absurd sustain that you get out of it.
Yeah.
It just really hangs on.
Yeah. Do you feel like this is best suited for smaller guitars, or do you feel like this could venture into the jumbo dready territory?
I'm kind of on the same page, honestly, as like with the Cocobolo.
Yeah.
I love it in small body and medium body, and it'll certainly do a big body too, but I like it in kind of the mid body.
Sure.
This is such a great example, kind of a small body, not a huge guitar, but it just gives you so much fidelity, so much clarity, both on the bass registers as well as the treble registers, just so clear all the way across the spectrum.
Yeah. Let me give this one a spin. I haven't really spent any time with this one here. I think
Brace
I
yourself.
think I tuned it, and I think that was it. I'm mesmerized at the top.
Yeah.
I know that's not our focus, but I think I need to say it. This falls under the classification of another guitar that sounds very different on this side than it does out front. But talk about you said active. This, you can feel it. You can just feel it like pulsing. It's just ready to. It seems very alive, very active. Sorry, I'm really liking this guitar a lot. I was going to make a pretty bold statement, but we're not done here yet.
All right. We'll get to statements at the end.
We will. I think I want you to think about this, Matt, as we're going here, because I think at the end, Matt and I will put ourselves in the position of having an unlimited amount of funds, choosing any builder we want, and having to pick a singular back and side tone wood. So rattle that around in your brain.
Oh boy.
What are we dealing with here? Because this is a dandy.
It surely is. This is from our friends at Goodall Guitars. This is their grand concert model with a master grade Western red cedar top. This is a 14 fret guitar, all bound in koa, really curly koa. And this will be our koa applicant for today's Tonewood Masterclass.
I'm not sure we're going to hire it yet. We don't know.
I got to tell you, I love koa as a back and side wood. I truly do. I think this talk about bold statements. I don't know if there's anybody that I love it more for myself than Goodall. And they've got an awesome connection with koa, and their connection with used to having built guitars out of Hawaii.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a near and dear tone wood to them personally, which we pay close attention to. But I love their koa back and sides guitar. Like I said, this is paired with a master grade Western red cedar top, and this tone wood combination is good.
Let's hear how good it is. How good is it? Okay. Describe Koa for me in 3 words or less.
Angelic AF.
It's like honey, nectar, sweet. It just, it's a beautiful tonewood. I think it's a very polarizing tonewood, actually.
Beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't like the sound of a pretty guitar, Koa's probably not for you. I'm serious. Like, I'm no joke. It is such a pretty sound. It's pleasing sound. Man. And I love it with cedar. I'll just throw that out there.
It's a really stellar instrument. I mean, and visually, come on. Just stop it already, Mother Nature. Knock it off.
I know.
No.
Kind of not fair.
It's so, I mean, I think the way it looks is a great parallel to how it sounds.
Absolutely.
I mean, it has a soft appearance, but it's very beautiful. It's very flowy. The color, to me, is sweet. I just, what a phenomenal tonewood. I'm familiar with Koa from the Weisenborn world.
Yeah.
Like a lap style slide guitar. I
Sure.
actually used to own one from the 20s.
Nice.
Style 4, I sold it. It was the one that got away. Long story. We don't have time for it right now. But I will say this. Koa ages so well. It just continues to get sweeter, and it has more depth, and it just has a lot to offer. What a beautiful, beautiful tonewood. How do you like to see it on a guitar?
Well, I really hear and again, we're using references, associations. I've heard it described as a great middle ground between your classic rosewood and mahogany,
Sure.
which are kind of on a little bit different ends of the spectrum. I think it's pretty accurate in my estimation that it falls kind of between the two. I feel like I can really both distinguish the fundamental quality of this guitar, but the presence of overtones are simply unmistakable as well. They're both there. They're both recognizable. For that reason, I love these as recording guitars.
Yeah.
You know, really great
see
guitar
that.
in front of a microphone with that clarity and everything. But again, if you're the medium body for me, OM, grand concert, that kind of range
Sure.
is the sweet spot for Koa in my book, because it's if you get real small with a Koa guitar, the mid-range tends to be very pronounced.
Oh, gotcha.
And even more so than like mahogany, I've found. And if you're looking for that, great. But if you're
Sure.
looking for maybe a little bit more of a versatile thing, a medium body is just awesome in these. So
Stellar. Let me see this bad
let's
boy.
hear that.
Sounds amazing out front. It just does. It just does. Just sweet.
It
Just
is.
sweet and
It
drippy and like just mid-rangey. Just picture honey just pouring off of a spoon. That's what I gather.
Well, and just hearing you play it, with kind of traditional chords
Yeah,
and stuff,
yeah.
it's like it'll do anything. I mean, I'm also picturing like a worship leader, just getting big chords out of it and doing the rhythmic thing. I think it would do all of that just really beautiful.
Great fit for somebody singing and playing, I think, because
Totally.
it's just not so out front that it's going to be in the way or detract from somebody singing. I think it sits right there. It's very supportive. I'm kind of kicking myself, but not really, because I wanted to offer kind of a flatline comparison of just playing similar things like open chords, just so you can hear how these woods react to that. But it's interesting to think about where these guitars would take you in terms of how you would play them.
Right.
But this one I could see being, again, another Swiss Army knife type of back and side wood, just a different flavor of a Swiss Army knife.
And-
Maybe a Leatherman, not a Swiss Army knife.
As you said, it's nice when it looks amazing.
Yeah, that's not bad to look at all. That's just ridiculous.
Doesn't hurt anything.
It's painfully ridiculous. All right. How many do we have left?
We might be real close here. We wanted to save a big one for the end.
We got 2 left? Did we do that one?
Not yet.
Oh, my.
Not yet.
2 left then. Yeah. 2 left. 2 very interesting instruments left.
Indeed. This is another from our friends at Santa Cruz Guitar Company. This is another OM Custom. This has a beautiful redwood top. This is not a sinker variation, just a straight up redwood top on this guitar. I like the rope purfling and everything, and rosette on that. Nice touch. But back and sides on this guitar that we're going to be taking a real close look at are the figured walnut. Back and sides on this guitar, and this is a really nice looking set. Maybe not the most dramatically figured that I've ever seen in my whole life, but certainly a gorgeous set. Love that color too, nice golden color.
Now, can I just quickly ask you a question? I feel like walnut has been making more of an appearance as of late. Do you find that to be the case, or am I just like?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Yeah, and I'm thrilled that that's the case. I mean, in a lot of cases, and in this case specifically in this guitar, this is a North American wood. It's a domestic tone wood. Relatively speaking, it is a fairly abundant tone wood.
Yeah.
So it's not something that we have to feel, if a tree comes down, we don't have to feel like the worst people in the world, kind of thing. So it can be responsibly harvested for sure. Hence, this being a Santa Cruz, of course it is. But I mean, I love walnut. Walnut's one of those woods, not totally dissimilar from like a mahogany or even a koa. It's not real heavy. It tends to be on the lighter side physically, which, as we kind of said, gives you a sense of quickness, a sense of responsiveness out of it, which is really fun. But really gives you, I think, a good balance kind of down the middle.
Nice. I love walnut.
Same.
I love walnut.
Same.
I love lamp. I love walnut. What? Okay, what's your description of it?
Just balanced.
Yeah.
I mean, in the pocket. It's such a reliable tone. You know, it'll work with anything.
It's got a little kind of buttery feel to it. It's got mahogany on the warmness end of the spectrum, but I feel like I'm getting a little like belly type of like overtone to it. What do you notice on your end of it? Like,
same. I think from this end, I'll be real eager to hear it from this perspective as well. But just this cozy warmth to it.
Yeah.
Just good body.
Yeah.
Really good body. And you know, we kind of have been talking an awful lot about presence of mid-range relative to other parts of the EQ spectrum. This to me is like a straight line.
Yeah.
Just all the way across.
Yeah.
Breathy.
It does have some koa-isms in it.
Yeah.
Like some koa-ness. Some, let me see this
Purdy.
guy.
It's purdy.
I feel like it, and I'm curious of your perspective, I feel like it would work on anything.
Yeah.
That's the kind of wood it is. Like a very utility type of wood. What do you get from out front? I'm kind of curious.
So this is interesting. This, contrary to others,
Yeah.
I feel like this sounds just like it did in my lap.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm
Getting something different.
I'm getting a lot of the low end kind of feedback.
Yep.
I'm not getting a lot of the highs, the sweetness of the highs like I heard out front. And it just could be the way that I'm picking. Play this again, please.
Yeah.
Sorry, just indulge me, please. It's not every day I get to do this, so. Okay. This is a dark horse tonewood. This is a dark horse tonewood. Like, in a big way.
Brother, I've been liking Walnut for a long time.
It's gorgeous. I haven't had a lot of hands-on experience with Walnut. The separation's beautiful. What a great tonewood.
It's separated, but it's not drastically separated.
Yeah.
I think when you're strumming, there's still a sense of a really sweet, slightly blended character to it. That just, again, in the pocket is the best way I can describe. Just feels at home.
I bet you would record like a beast.
Yep.
There you go.
Well, let me ask you, what kind of context might you like this in?
I think recording would be ideal. I think accompanying a singer would be awesome. I could see this as a great solo type guitar, playing a solo gig, and you're just kind of singing along with it.
Sure.
It seems like it leans really hard towards the strumming end of the spectrum. I don't think it would be bad at finger picking. It's very Koa-like. It's very Koa-like. I mean, some of you may hear something completely different, but at least from my perspective, I'm getting a lot of that sweetness. I really like that. I could see somebody being kind of maybe a cross picker type, really favoring something like this, because it's less string. It's more like this nice overlapping, again, kind of like wavy feel.
Sure.
But like you said, this wonderful like blended presentation almost. Strings aren't stepping on each other. It's real supportive, but it's real homogeneous, you know, in terms of there's not one string that speaks necessarily louder than the other. I feel like it's very, like you said, straight line across the board.
Well, and to your point, I selfishly wish that I could sing, because I think this would be such a great singer-songwriter type of a tool, you know,
100%.
songwriting tool.
I could see being at home and just wanting to record yourself with like a single microphone.
Sure.
Maybe not having all the stuff, but just a single microphone, sitting down, strumming and playing and singing. I think it'd probably come out pretty
killer.
awesome.
Yeah. Agreed.
Really stellar instrument.
Very sweet.
I think we got one left.
We do have
Got one left. We started with a banger. We're gonna end with a banger. Two bangers.
Ultra
a bookend of bangers. A banger bookend. I'm really excited about this guitar for a lot of reasons, but please indulge us because it's ridiculous. It's totally. I mean, and I say that out of pure. It's incredible. I should just use the word incredible.
Oh, let's see what this does.
You can see this guitar coming.
we better before we get carried away say what this thing is. This is from our good friend Richard Hoover at Santa Cruz Guitar Company. This is one of the most recent vault guitars by Santa Cruz Guitar Company. I'm not going to spend the next hour going into every detail because it will take longer than that, but we're talking Renaissance cedar top on this guitar, insanely old. Back and sides, which are going to be highly focused here, are the magnificent and illustrious The Tree Mahogany, 5A, quilted Honduran mahogany. You cannot mistake it. If you know about guitars, I hope you know about this wood. You should. Some of the most utterly impressive tone wood, both visually and, as far as I'm concerned, tonally.
Remember when I said way back when that mahogany really isn't figured?
Well, I got news for you.
Yeah. No, it really is. Turns out it really is.
See, there was this
stunning.
one tree a long time ago.
Decided to be different, and here we go.
But just way too much fun. And, way too much fun. Do I have to stop at three words?
Yeah, actually you do.
Oh, man. I might be able to just say it with one. It's just luxurious.
Yeah.
It's like too good.
So elephant in the room here. Because I've heard, I think people hear of the tree. people also are like, oh, the tree. It's gorgeous. There's nothing like this, period. And there's a finite amount. Okay, so already the status is elevated in a big way. I mean, just because of the fact that there is so little of it, also the fact that it's really rare. I don't know if there's any other quilted mahogany with this level of figuring in existence. Like it's like looks like water. Yeah. It's bananas. It looks like somebody took quilted maple and tried to dye it mahogany color. What do you hear, if anything, the difference between a 1930s Honduran mahogany to the tree?
I hear a lot different.
Tell me more.
A lot different. We really talked about the fundamental qualities, the relative dryness of that 1930s Honduran mahogany, and I hear virtually the polar opposite out of this. Lush, really ringy, great sustain. There's a complexity to this wood in the tone that I'm not trying to sound dramatic or whatever. I just haven't heard it in any other wood.
Yeah.
I just haven't. Rosewoods, I don't care. I've just not heard this type of complexity. And the fact that it is mahogany and achieving that.
Yeah.
The figuring, as I understand it, and I'm not a guitar builder, a woodworker, nor the guy that processes any of this stuff. So I'm leaning on other folks who know a lot better than me. This is far more dense, far harder, stiffer, as I understand it, than like the mahogany we played in the other Santa Cruz here. With that, you get more of that reflective type of response out of it, and I think presence of those harmonics really are, get amplified by that type.
Yeah, it is vastly different from the standard straight grain Honduran mahogany. I've never been able to compare, we'll call it a celebrity Tonewood, because let's be honest, it really is. In the Tonewood world, it'd be walking the red carpet, taking the pictures. Never had a chance to compare it side by side to its, more common brother. Wow, is it different? I'm going to say that it has a little bit of that wetness that you talked about with Rosewood, where we initially said, oh, mahogany, it's dry. Dry is the word to describe it. This kind of has that, and I think you said it has a little bit more of a reflective quality to it. Yeah, but can I play it?
Gladly.
Oh, gosh.
And I should just throw out there, of the guitars that we've been spoiled to have through our shop with this material, the tree mahogany, Santa Cruz, we've been fortunate that they've built the majority that we've been able to get through here. And they just take this wood and show it the respect and reverence it deserves. I just have to say that.
I take it back. It's not like a wetness. It's not. It's a completely different character. describe it, to be honest with you. I thought I was hearing like a rosewood mahogany conglomerate. That's not it. I think there's a level of complexity, like you said, that I've never really experienced. And I've never played a tree guitar.
Really?
No. Maybe I did last visit and I just don't know. I don't think I did.
Go back and look.
Wow. Because I think the same guitar made out of a standard Honduran mahogany would sound good. I don't think it would sound like this. There's a character to it that's like, I don't really have a good word for it. I wish I did. Like, I feel like I'm drowning right now.
It's almost a radiating quality.
Yeah.
It maybe obviously the tone is doing its thing, but it's I think it's, again, I'm not trying to sound dramatic here, but it's almost the way that the guitar itself radiates.
Yeah.
What it's doing is so unique.
I think of the notes as like throwing a rock in water, and it's like that kind of
Yeah.
circular wave kind of comes out. That's kind of how it's like radiates.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention just the guitar itself, just the work on the guitar. I mean, I know we're focused on back and sides here, but let's be honest, like, this is a showstopper, just a blatant showstopper.
I think the tree is one of those woods too that it's almost. Handro will know the line from Kill Bill, the Hattori Hanzo. You can't compare a Hattori Hanzo with anything other than a Hattori Hanzo sword. It's like the tree is kind of the same way.
Yeah.
It's like you can put it next to other mahogany or Brazilian or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's kind of just, it is what it is, man.
Yeah. What a treat. I am ridiculously spoiled. And I feel like you are too, in a way. You and the folks watching. Like, this is not a common occurrence to be able to line up this set of Tonewoods, sit down, play them, hear them, talk about them. And ultimately, I just hope that you who are watching are able to watch this and gather some vocabulary, get some samples, get these things in your ear so that when you're shopping, you can say, I really like this aspect of mahogany, or I like this aspect of rosewood, or I like a glassy sound, or I like a more brittle sound, or a sweet sound. Develop your own, verbiage around tone so that when you're going to a store, when you're talking to a builder, when you call Matt and you're like, give me the tree, you can convey what's in your mind so that you're starting to develop this conversation where you're like, okay, I know what you mean. And it's so hard to do because tone is so just like ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
What's good, what's bad? Well, it's not really about good or bad. It's really what you like. And I think this array of Tonewoods is a great example. Like, guitar makers wouldn't build guitars out of multiple Tonewoods just for fun.
Right.
They all sound a little different,
Right.
So you've got an unlimited amount of money. You have access to any builder in the world. You don't have to name the builder. You don't have to name the price, but you got to name the back and side wood. What are you picking? So is that a solid vote for the tree?
I've made my pick.
Okay. Follow-up question. Of the guitars we played today, what Tonewood has or did surprise you the most?
Good question. I'm gonna throw a curveball maybe out there. The Gibson, the Quilted Maple.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did not expect that.
Yeah, the response and the bass of that guitar, and how punchy it is.
Yeah.
I honestly wasn't expecting quite that much muscularity out of that guitar, and
Okay.
it really has some.
You don't,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
What
I
about you?
didn't expect that. Which one?
Let's do the wall first, then
Okay.
we'll do the unlimited
Okay.
budget.
Of what we discussed today, the Tonewood that surprised me the most. Okay, I like Cocobolo, but that didn't really surprise me. I expected that. African Blackwood. African Blackwood. What I was gonna say after I was done playing that guitar is I almost like it more than Brazilian. It's like neck and neck.
I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, but there are builders out there who I know well who share your same opinion.
That guitar has like a haunting quality. Like I can still hear it in my mind. Yeah, I would say African Blackwood surprised me the most.
Yeah.
It really did. I think its performance and just the way it sounds is wow. It's a barn burner.
Remind me, you don't own any African Blackwood
No,
guitars.
but I've played Gage Howland. I've played 2 of his African Blackwood instruments, and I think I remember having the same reaction. But it's not often you get to play a guitar with African Blackwood, and it's my experience with it has been so spread out that I don't necessarily have a good handle on what it can do.
Sure.
But that was, and again, these are back and sides paired with a top wood and a certain body size. So we have some variance here, but that guitar, that back and side wood is definitely my pick for surprising.
Nice.
If I was to have an unlimited budget.
And any builder.
And any builder. This is so hard. I really wanted this to be a one-sided affair. Man. If I had an unlimited amount of money, I'd just get one of everything. Dark Horse, Macassar Ebony.
Oh, there you go.
I really would. I think it would pair well with cedar.
Yep.
I think it'd be really cool to hear it with cedar. I just love that darkness. I love that the sustain that contains that darkness it's just like a warm, fuzzy beauty. It feels like a powerful tone wood as well. And I say that just purely from if I was to play my own solo stuff like fingerstyle alternate tunings, I think that would be the one.
Yep.
But there's some hot competition up here. Real hot competition.
Well, that's what's nice about it is they're all friendly.
Yeah. Hondra, any questions coming through at all? Kind of curious if folks have any questions about anything we discussed or.
Yeah, so I was gonna kind of wait till we got towards the end to kind of go back through and look for some of the questions that they had.
Yeah.
But I did put on the screen for them which guitar was your favorite today, so they can comment and let us know which one that they thought was their desert island guitar.
While you're doing that, we need your opinion.
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
This is always tough. But I'm going to go with the Collings OM3.
Ooh, baby. Good choice.
When you down tuned that?
Yeah.
I know.
My ears didn't perk up, they popped up.
They started melting over there.
Yeah, because it was just the forcefulness and the resilience of that low note paired with the sweetness of the rest of that soundstage on that guitar. And maybe more of a middle of the road sounding guitar in comparison to all of these, but for me, I was just hearing a song already, recorded. So it was very cool, but so much heat on the wall today. It's hard to pick.
Yeah. It's like, we got the NHL Four Nations coming up, and I feel like we're sitting in. It's this is the Four Nations of the. It's the all-star team. It's like
no doubt.
You can't pick a bad one at all.
What flavor do you like?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we got Jeff on the Santa Cruz in Matt's lap. We got Yak on the African Blackwood, but have Tom build it.
Okay.
That's a nice touch.
Yeah.
Dennis, African Blackwood is very special, size, sustain, and simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
Aficionado Lure Company loved the old cathode ray TV. Alejandro,
Your graphic.
My graphic on here. Les guitarist Mammoth have to go with the Ruggiero for craftsmanship and sound together.
And just taste, man. Just the style of that guitar is so hot.
Like I said, you were playing it, and I just kept noticing other things.
Yeah.
Like the side markers are gorgeous, kind of integrated to the front. So beautiful.
Let me back it up to a couple of the questions from earlier. Let's see here. Sorry, bear with me for a second.
It's all right.
Okay. Matthew Pesquet said a few of the luthiers that he's asked and or heard about favorite wood pairings often say Sinker Redwood and Macassar Ebony. Not so much a question, but statement there.
Nice observation.
Don't we have
just,
one of
just so I understood that correctly, he said that builders he's spoken to prefer Sinker Redwood and Macassar Ebony.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got
And
here.
yes, we do have one.
I know. I was like, that sounds familiar. That guitar's awesome.
Yeah.
That is a.
They spoiled the daylights out of us
Yeah.
on that set of guitars. My goodness.
So Rich is curious about your take on Madagascar Rosewood. It seems as if Mahogany and Brazilian had a baby.
Perhaps. Again, my perception of it is kind of a warmer, maybe, for lack of better terms, richer take on what Brazilian Rosewood is doing.
Yeah.
If I'm reading between the lines of what his comment is saying, maybe he's associating the Madagascar Rosewood with being a little bit drier tone, maybe. I don't know that I get that so much personally. What are your thoughts?
I was going to compare it to chocolate. I feel like Brazilian rosewood is like 99% cacao.
Yeah.
And I feel like Madagascar rosewood is like 82%.
Okay. I was going to say 78%.
Oh, 78. That's fair. I think we're in the
close.
same range. Yeah, it's got the glassiness is still there, but I feel like it's calmed down a little bit to make way for some more low mid-range support.
Yep.
That's what I hear in the room anyway with
Yep.
that particular guitar. That's my assessment.
And again, final disclaimer.
Yeah, maybe.
We're judging the guitars here, not the raw Tonewoods. You know,
Yeah.
it's just throwing that out
Yeah,
there.
because that does play a huge factor
Right.
in this. I mean, the top, the construction, the bracing, a lot of factors.
Yep.
But
But at least this gives you a sense of kind of what the spices of the Tonewood kind of add.
Exactly right.
And from William, William is a parlor guitar collector and eyeing a Breedlove Masterclass with ebony back and sides. Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Small body with ebony back and sides ought to be a sweet combination.
Yeah, I think the darkness in the ebony, not color, tonally, is a pretty cool match with a small
Definitely.
body because you get that almost manufactured bass out of it just from the Tonewood response or the
Exactly.
back and side wood response.
Well, it kind of almost opposite effect of what I was saying about, walnuts and koas. Bigger guitars work really well with
Yeah.
those for the opposite reason.
For sure.
Kind of thing. Yeah,
For sure.
absolutely.
And you guys actually touched on this on your own, but Ian Cummings was curious if there's any noticeable tonal differences between mahogany, like from the tree, and other types like Cuban or African.
Yeah, and I think we wanted to be, or maybe we didn't specify this so much, but we wanted to be a little bit specific in that we wanted to compare these two mahoganies, being the tree specifically versus Honduran mahogany specifically. So, I think we can both attest that like Cuban mahogany, African mahogany, some of the other variants, even the Sapiles and stuff that we
Yeah.
talked about, kind of have some of their own characteristics. But
Yeah.
we were kind of deliberately looking at the real traditional Honduran straight grain versus ultra figured. And yeah, we definitely are, I think, hearing both some differences out of those two woods.
Yeah, for sure. And just from my experience, like I said, I have a Cuban mahogany dread at home. It's different than that dread.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's some commonalities of the horsepower, the dryness, the presence of the fundamental, but there's some nuances that are different, but I think the base package is similar. I can't say that about the tree versus that.
Right.
The base package is not similar
Right.
there. You have elements. It's just there's a characteristic of it that I'm really having a hard time verbalizing.
I understand, and I think that if I'm just going to throw this out there as a hypothetical.
Yeah.
If we didn't know, somehow mankind didn't know that this was a species of mahogany, would we be even trying to draw similarities, comparisons between this and what we know as Honduran mahogany?
That's a fair point.
I just wonder.
Yeah, I mean, because there's definitely some bias coming into it. It's
Sure.
beautiful. You can't ignore the bias. Like, you look at it and you know how rare it is. Like, yeah, you're going to be extra critical about
Yeah.
the sound.
Sure.
That being said, it sounds different. I don't think that's a manufactured, like, oh, it's got to sound different because it's the
Right.
tree. It does sound different. I mean, if in a blindfold, I don't know if you'd say, oh, those are both mahogany guitars.
I think we'd both pass that one.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah.
And this one from Dominic. I find the Martin D28 quite mellow, warm, and soft. How is it that Rosewood and most other guitars makes them more aggressive, punchier, and gives more highs and bottoms?
I think, if I can speak on that, I think likely what you're hearing there is the input of the builder in a lot of cases, because I could not agree more with your observation there. I think really what that boils down to is the input of the intent of the builder.
Yeah. And I think if I'm hearing the question right, I think, having a straight ahead D28 on scallop bracing probably stiffens up the top a little bit. I mean, I know it stiffens up the top a little bit, and that affects it as well. And just it being a bigger instrument, there's a lot of air moving, so that can certainly impact what you're hearing, how you're hearing. But the input of the builder, I think, is really a key factor, because the same Rosewood Dreadnought built by Martin is going to be vastly different than a Rosewood Dreadnought built by Santa Cruz or Atkin, or name a builder. It's all different.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to hit you with a tough one now.
Oh boy.
From Marco. Who would win in a fight, Tony Polecastro or Tony Soprano?
Isn't Tony Soprano already dead? I think I got a shoe in there.
I don't know. I've seen you fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a big fighter. I don't think he'd probably win.
And this one wasn't so much a question, but you would need an armored car with armored guards to transport the guitars that have been shown today.
That is not lost on us, folks. Please believe that. We know.
And I will say, not a second of this has been taken for granted. Like, the fact that I'm in the presence of this base of knowledge, this amazing array of guitars, it's like, it's Mount Everest status stuff for a guitar geek. That's for sure. So it's not lost on me, and I appreciate Matt, Hondro, Eddie's, just to be a guest.
Well,
is pretty darn awesome.
big time likewise, being able to share it with someone who gets it and appreciates it, and I know this stuff's going to be haunting you for months, if not years.
Yeah,
it's good all around, so we appreciate it as well.
What he's saying is that Matt's going to get a call in roughly 5 to 7 days, and Whitney, if you're watching this, I'm just going to apologize right now. See if I can smooth the waters before the waters get rough.
We just need to start placing bets on what we're going to send you now.
Yeah. Oh, man.
All right, so some people use arm socks when playing a fine acoustic. Have you guys considered a beard sock? Blaze a new trail, gentlemen.
Side business?
I have to say, there have been times after, coming into work and doing the little, oil thing in the morning or whatever. And then I'm sitting in here playing a guitar, and I look down, and I'm like, what has happened to the top of this guitar? And then I realize I'm leaving oil on it. I hope that's not ruining anybody's buying situation.
Fretboard Summit, the first year I went, same thing. I'm like, I'm checking out guitars, all these fine builders. And I go to hand it back, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done to this?
You got a hose?
Yeah. Gosh. So beard sock's not a bad idea, or like a tuck, just under there.
There you
I
go.
don't know. Good observation. Good business venture.
From Corey, how would you compare Madagascar to Blackwood?
Any thoughts?
I picked African Blackwood. That's my thought on that.
Good comparison.
Really, I mean, yeah, great comparison. Way to really dive in there, Tone. I'm just going on what I like. I feel like the African Blackwood is more active.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I gather from it. Madagascar Rosewood is no slouch in this regard. I just feel like African Blackwood on that guitar, the way we compared it today, is more active. It feels more resonant. It has this wave effect to it that that's the only way I can
that liveliness it has.
Yeah.
That it's like an implied effortlessness to get the guitar kind of going.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it seems like Madagascar's kind of the, again, for lack of better terms, woodier. Less glassy.
Yeah.
Less active kind of thing. But again, just really reliable classic tone.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And we didn't have any today, but what are your thoughts on Ziricote?
I am I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Ziricote, and we didn't have one on the wall today. I'm not to spoil anything. I'm thinking maybe the next time we do this, we can look at a little bit more alternative-ish Tonewoods.
Absolutely.
And I think Ziricote will fit perfectly in that grouping. It's another wood that you cannot deny the just jaw-dropping beauty of the landscapey, spider webby grain that you see in Ziricote. The color of it, just visually it looks awesome with a white spruce top with a sinker redwood, the whole range. I definitely hear what I would associate with rosewood qualities in Ziricote. A little bit more of that richness, thickness in the tone, bit of that lower mid-range forward sort of attitude in the tone as well. That's a sweet wood.
Yeah, I would defer to you because I don't think any experience playing a Ziricote guitar.
Nice.
Never had a chance to do it. I feel like I want to say I spec'd one out at Taylor one time, but I can't remember. I think I'd remember that, so I'm going to say no. I haven't played a Ziricote guitar.
It's a great wood. The one thing that we've kind of perceived and have heard tale of over some time is be conscientious about the quality of humidification, because it can potentially be a brittle wood.
Gotcha.
And then kind of give if it gets too dry, potentially crack. So it's just something to be aware of.
For
but
sure.
I'll tell you, some of the most brittle tone woods are the best sounding ones. They just are.
And from Maxwell, speaking of ebony, what is the difference with exotic ebony versus Macassar? Is it the same or different?
So exotic ebony, and I might be a little bit out of my pay grade here a little bit, but exotic ebony, I believe, is ebony that they don't know the exact origin of, hence the semi-generic,
the blanket term of exotic.
Exactly. And I might be mistaken on that, but
that seems in line with what I've heard, because I think the harvesting of ebony was kind of a disaster. Like I feel like it was just like, we're cutting everything down. Whatever's stark black, we're gonna take. Yep. Whatever's not, we're just gonna leave. I think this tree went that way, that tree went that way, and it's ebony, but maybe not with necessarily a true point of origin.
Yeah,
because it got lost in translation.
Sure.
That's pure hypothesis.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
For sure. And before Bob Taylor came along and straightened ebony out, that you're probably very, very spot on.
Yeah, well, because I feel like now, and just judging by how it's named now, like Crelicum ebony, that comes from Bob's mill in Crelicum. Macassar ebony, comes from Macassar. Is that a place?
Sure.
I'm just assuming that the name is now attached to it, whereas before it's like we don't know really where this came from per se.
Right.
Again, above my pay grade.
Just
a hypothesis.
Admittedly, a little bit for both of us, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to rapid fire a few more because we probably have to wrap it up shortly, unfortunately. Sure. But from Daniel, which combination would you prefer in a more intimate setting that could also work well in a small to medium venue? A triple O or an OM with either spruce mahogany or rosewood backsides?
Thoughts?
OM spruce rosewood.
There it is.
I'm gonna split the difference and say 12 fret triple O spruce rosewood.
Okay. Fine.
And,
no, I'm just kidding.
If you guys had to pick one top to go with your back and side wood that you picked today, what would that be?
That.
I think Tony,
Redwood.
you mentioned the cedar and African blackwood earlier, or maybe
the guitar. Well, my back and side wood was Macassar.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I was to pick a top to go with that, I think I like the Sinker Redwood. My Tom Sands, I can't remember what spruce it is. This is terrible. Tom, I'm sorry if you're watching. I think it's an Italian spruce. And I love that combination. But that's really stellar. So I'm going to say that for today.
I'm going to tell Tom you said that.
Yeah, you can tell him. You can tell him. He'll yell at me. That's fine. I can take it.
And Tony, how would you describe Lost Tunnel Redwood since you own a guitar with that top?
That guitar's amazing.
Is that your Sands?
That's the Sands,
okay.
yeah. The dark character of that guitar, I think it's exactly what I like out of the Macassar Sinker that I play back here. It's almost got a frostiness to it, almost like a if you've ever held packing peanuts and kind of rubbed your thumb on them and you get this almost like a squeak.
Yep.
I have the weirdest parallels here. That's kind of the finish I get on the notes. It's a real crisp finish. It's real frosty. It has kind of a darker character, but the way that Tom has treated it, it has a shimmer to it. It's very similar to that. Tons of sustain, mind-blowing sustain. The harmonics are they're very ringy. They're full of overtones. I think that's attributed to the back and sides really, but that top is really responsive, and I think that's in part of what it is, but also how Tom treated it. But it's a hell of a guitar. I can't imagine life without that guitar.
Nice.
Musical life. I'd be fine, regular, but I'd be sad. Cool.
This has been a lot of fun, man.
Yes, and again, thanks to you, Andro, Eddie's, all the makers here that are represented. What a day. And like I said before, I think one of the main reasons we discussed doing this was to allow you as a player, as a shopper, as an enthusiast to come in with a little of knowledge, some sort of knowledge base, like, okay, these guitars are going to sound different because of the different tone woods. Here's a couple of reasons why. Here's some of the tone woods I'm going to encounter. And here's basically maybe why they sound a little different, whether they're harder or softer, where they're from, how they look, etc. So I really am happy to do this, selfishly, because to be able to play all these is amazing, but also to offer this as kind of a resource for folks to come back to and say, you know what? I'm not really sure how that sounds, but at least I can go get a quick sample so I can know if I'm in the ballpark of what I like or what I don't like, etc. So thank you guys, and this has been a blast. I look forward to doing it again if you guys let me through the front door.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Yeah, we really appreciate you having here. Your insight in just digging through all these is such a great perspective, and not only for us, but like you said, kind of to share with everybody out there. So we do appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, man. Likewise, this has been awesome. It's fun to get the beards together.
Indeed.
A lot of hair in here.
Indeed.
We're gonna get the.
We'll clog a drain.
We got to get the lint roller. So we'll see you next time.
Folks, thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're with us live right now or able to catch this after the fact, we sure appreciate you checking this out. Do check out Tony's website at
tacguitar.com, tacguitar.com.
Tony's Acoustic Challenge, the very finest lesson program on the face of the world, Earth,
World, universe even.
All right. Folks, thanks a bunch. Have a fabulous weekend. We'll catch you next time around.
Cheers.